Chris Jericho versus Kazuchika Okada. Is this the start of an All Elite Wrestling New Japan Pro Wrestling partnership? Next on the Squared Circle Psychobabble. Hello and welcome to the Squared Circle Psychobabble. My name is Michael Valenti. This is Ralph Valenti. Don't forget to subscribe and hit that bell for notifications as we're trying to hit 5,000 YouTube subscribers before All Elite Wrestling Double or Nothing. And just a little bit after Double or Nothing, Ralph, we have the Dominion show on June 9th in Osaka, Japan. And the big match that everybody was talking about last weekend was Chris Jericho versus Kazuchika Okada is going to be the main event for the IWGP Heavyweight Championship. Now, we know that Jericho was allowed to do New Japan shows in his contract with AEW, but do you see this being the start of a partnership with All Elite Wrestling and New Japan?
Yeah, you know what? I actually do think this is something that we're going to see either, relatively soon or further down the line. I'm not sure. But I think in order for these companies to really maximize what they're trying to do and get as much attention as possible, they're going to have to share talent at one point or another. Obviously, when certain guys like Kenny Omega, the Bucks, those guys decided to go exclusively, or some of them exclusively, to AEW, right now they aren't competing in New Japan Pro Wrestling, and I think New Japan Pro Wrestling realizes that that's a lot of their top tier guys, a lot of big names that are no longer there anymore.
Right.
Kenny Omega had a ton of success there. The Young Bucks, while they weren't there exclusively, they had a ton of success there.
Mm-hmm.
Losing those kind of caliber guys and those type of talents, they're going to have to fill the void. And
Right.
I think the only way for these companies to be successful is to share the talent. We saw how successful All In was, especially because you had guys like Okada who was able to compete in something like that.
Yes.
The Ring of Honor and New Japan Pro Wrestling show. We saw how successful the G1 card was at Madison Square Garden, being able to sell out and all that stuff, being able to share talent. We see this happening more and more now, where you didn't see it as much, especially with WWE being as big and as prominent as it has been for the past, 20 some odd years.
Right.
You saw it on a smaller scale with ECW and WWE back in the day.
Yeah.
But you don't really see it as much as you see it more so now than you've really seen it for a long time.
Well, you bring up Ring of Honor, for example. Okay.
Right.
I think this is something that Ring of Honor has to really monitor, because you look at the G1 Supercard and the matches that were put up by New Japan Pro Wrestling
Mm-hmm.
were easily better than the ones that Ring of Honor put up.
I think most people would agree with that.
Most people would agree with that. I think most people would also agree that when you knew that this show was happening at Madison Square Garden, Kazuchika Okada had to be in the main event.
Yeah. He definitely had to be there, especially after certain guys we knew weren't going to be able to be there, like the Bucks and Omega.
Right. So New Japan Pro Wrestling, their goal and all what they're doing right now is to create this Western expansion.
Yeah.
Okay. They already dominate in Japan. Everyone knows that. They're trying to move over now to, hit into the States and be another alternative to WWE. If they continue their partnership with Ring of Honor, I think that's going to hinder their push, because look at what happened on their little tour trying to promote the G1 Supercard. Before that all happened and we had the visa issues.
Mm-hmm.
No Okada, no Naito, no Ibushi. And basically it was just guys that were American citizens or had already visas that can come to the United States. And those shows were, not exactly well appreciated by fans.
Yeah.
With All Elite Wrestling, I could think of at least 4 or 5 matches right now that they did a super card. They can be on that card instantly. You can have either Omega Okada 5, another Omega Jericho. Let's say Jericho somehow beats Okada for the title. You can have Naito Jericho.
Right.
You can have the Bucks and God, because there was unfinished business there. It seemed like that storyline didn't really pay off because of the situation. You have Juice Robinson and Cody you can rehash again, maybe. There's just a lot there. Maybe you can even do a storyline with Kota Ibushi and Kenny Omega where Ibushi could say, hey, Omega, you left.
Mhm.
You were supposed to stay here. We were supposed to change the world in New Japan, and
Yep.
you left me.
And I think Omega even promised that match at some point, and we never really
They
got
never
it.
got
So,
it. It turned into a triple threat.
yeah, and I think, the difficult thing for this is how do you do it where you share the talent, but you don't diminish the value of one promotion or another? Because that's always going to be an issue.
That's always
because
an
I
issue.
guarantee you, back in the day, Vince McMahon was not going to let a Stone Cold Steve Austin go over into a WCW ring and share talent and have him lose 1, 2, 3 to one of the top tier guys in WCW. And you'd never see Goldberg come over to a WWE ring while under contract with WCW and lose in the middle of a WWE ring. It just wasn't going to happen. So
Right.
how do you do it where a Kenny Omega goes back to New Japan Pro Wrestling but loses to an Okada? What does that say about AEW? And I don't know. I don't know if there's an easy, obvious answer to that, because there's titles and there's egos and there's money.
Well, the difference is, you don't want to compare it to WCW and WWE because they were competing for each other. They were competing for ratings and brand supremacy and all that stuff. The better comparison is back in the 90s where New Japan and WWE actually had talent sharing.
Mhm.
Hulk Hogan had a match with the great Muta back in Japan, and guys like Tenaru would come to WWE.
Yep.
And it wasn't where Hogan would win there and vice versa. Like Tenaru wasn't winning I mean, they did, but they weren't like top guys there. So that's really how you got to compare it to.
Yeah.
Muta and Hogan would be similar to Omega and Okada or Jericho and Okada now.
Right.
So
I don't disagree. I'm just saying, how do you do it in a way where you don't diminish the value of a Kenny Omega? You don't diminish the value of an Okada because, at the end of the day, both these companies are going to have to survive with their top guys with, when they're not doing
Right.
co-promotion. So,
well, one thing is you do what Cody's dad did best. Dusty finishes.
I guess so.
That's how you do it. You just do dusty finish after dusty finish after dusty finish. So maybe for a while we don't see, I know everyone's expecting to see these championship belts, but maybe we don't see the championship belts for a while. And we already know that the Young Bucks are carrying around the AAA tag team championships. Do they carry around the IWGP tag team championships? Do we see Jericho carry around the IWGP heavyweight championship? Do we that kind of diminishes the title in a sense, but maybe that's what you have to do at first. Like, hey, they're running with our top title, but eventually they're going to drop it to a Naito, or they're going to drop it to an Ibushi. They're going to drop it to a Zack Sabre Jr., someone that's more solidified in our brand.
Yep. And I guess if you think about it this way too, so look at what they're doing with the NWA championship right now.
Yes.
So all this being able to kind of compete against different people and different organizations. So especially his most recent win against Marty Scurll, that's a pretty high profile win, especially for him. It's probably one of his better matches that he's had in a long time. So, that adds value, that adds prestige to the championship. And that brings me to the point about the prestige of the championship, because I know that was something that Tony Khan mentioned in his interview with Chris Van Fleet. He said that, in 5 years, I think he said, we'll have the most prestigious titles in all of wrestling. So if you want to have a prestigious title, you're not going to have a guy, let's say Omega or Hangman or Jericho go over to Japan
And lose.
It just, to me, even though it's predetermined, it doesn't send the right message to the fan base. It's like admitting that your top guy is just second best.
Right.
I know Vince McMahon, who's probably the most successful promoter of all time in all of wrestling to date, he wouldn't allow his top guy to go lose anywhere else. So I don't think that we're going to see, while we might see talent sharing, I don't know if it's going to be at the level where titles all of a sudden are shared and everything else.
Yeah. Well, we'll know in due time here. Let us know what you think. Is this the start of a New Japan All Elite Wrestling partnership? Let us know in the comments below. Don't forget to like this video, share it all over social media. We're on Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter at SCPB Podcast. Subscribe, hit that bell for notifications as we're trying to hit 5,000 YouTube subscribers before All Elite Wrestling, Double or Nothing. For Ralph Valenti, my name is Michael Valenti, and thank you for watching the Squared Circle Psychobabble.